Why is it that the more you chase her, the further she pulls away? Why is it that the nicer you are, the less she respects you? You've been told to be kind, to be agreeable, to listen and accommodate, but has that worked? Or has it left you confused, frustrated, and invisible? Here's the brutal truth. Women aren't drawn to weakness dressed as virtue. They don't fall for men who seek approval. They follow men who carry meaning. Attraction isn't built on words or tricks. It's built on order, direction, and truth. And if you don't embody that, she'll sense it instantly. You can't fake it. You can't charm your way around it. She's not rejecting you. She's rejecting the emptiness you're afraid to face. So ask yourself, are you becoming a man worthy of her admiration or just performing, hoping she doesn't notice? Because the moment you stop chasing and start becoming, everything changes. And it starts now. Why is it that so many men are terrified of walking up to a woman who shows no interest in them? Because they don't want to be seen. Not really. They want the illusion of being wanted without ever risking the truth of being rejected. They want to be chosen, but not tested. And that is cowardice masquerading as charm. Attraction is not some game of clever words or manipulative tricks. It's not about playing roles or learning pickup strategies. No, attraction is competence in the face of rejection. It's the willingness to show up fully as you are, knowing you could be dismissed and doing it anyway. And that takes something far more rare than good looks or money. It takes courage. And most men have been robbed of it. You see, the modern man has been told that to be accepted, he must be agreeable, soft, predictable, that he must avoid confrontation, avoid conflict, avoid discomfort at all costs. But what does that create? A generation of men afraid of their own reflection, afraid to say what they really mean, afraid to be direct, and worse, afraid to be rejected. But let me tell you something brutally honest. If you cannot face a woman's disinterest without collapsing into anxiety and self-loathing, you are not ready to lead in a relationship. You're not even ready to lead yourself. Because here's the truth. Most of what we call attraction is not attraction at all. It's approval seeking. It's insecurity wrapped in a fragile ego. And women, biologically and psychologically, can smell that. They don't want a man who's addicted to being liked. They want a man who can be disliked and still remain composed. A man who can look discomfort in the eye and not flinch. A man who is sovereign. When you approach a woman who isn't interested, what happens to you? Do you panic? Do you try to prove something? Do you shrink? Or do you hold your posture, speak with clarity, and accept the outcome without a loss of self-respect? Because that moment right there is the test. And make no mistake, you're not just being tested by her, you're being tested by life. And the failure to pass that test has consequences. It breeds resentment, it turns desire into bitterness, it transforms men into critics of women instead of leaders among them. You start blaming the world for the very things you never had the discipline to develop within yourself. But when you rise to the challenge, when you confront that fear, not once, but repeatedly, something profound happens. You begin to transform, not just in how women see you, but in how you see you. You're no longer begging for attention. You're standing in it. Your nervous system stops reacting. Your voice steadies. Your eyes stop darting for validation. And then, and only then, does she begin to feel you. Because a woman does not fall for a man who needs her to validate his existence. She falls for the man who already knows who he is, with or without her approval. And that's the paradox, isn't it? The less you try to force attraction, the more you embody it. When you stop chasing her and start confronting yourself, your fear, your inadequacy, your insecurity, you become attractive in the deepest sense. Because you've made yourself into someone who doesn't need to be liked in order to act with courage. So if you're sitting there wondering how to attract a woman who doesn't seem interested, let me give you the truth most won't tell you. Start trying to be interesting. Start becoming interested in truth, in virtue, in responsibility. Because that path will make you into someone not just women respect. And if you can become that man, then even her silence cannot intimidate you. Her rejection cannot destroy you. Because you'll know this: your value is not proven by her attention. It's revealed by your willingness to face the absence of it without losing yourself. That's what makes you irresistible. Not your charm, not your style, but your strength in silence. And if you can grasp that, you'll never have to chase attraction again. If you're trying to impress her, you've already told her you're beneath her. Let that sink in. Every time you shift your tone to be more agreeable, every time you alter your values to fit what you think she wants, every time you betray your authenticity just to be liked, you are not gaining ground. You're giving it up. And deep down you know it. You feel it when you walk away from that conversation, and something in your chest feels off, like you've just handed over your dignity for a smile. And that's not charisma. That's submission. That's self-betrayal dressed up as charm. And women can see it. Not always consciously, but they feel it. And they recoil from it because it signals weakness. It signals instability. It signals a man who doesn't know who he is. So he's trying to be what she wants him to be. And that is deeply unattractive. Do you know what that kind of man becomes over time? Bitter, passive-aggressive, confused. Because he spends his life performing for women, twisting and turning and adjusting until one day he doesn't even recognize his own voice. And he wonders why nothing works, why they leave, why they're never truly drawn to him. And the answer is painful, but it's clear. Because she didn't fall for you. She fell for the version of you that you thought she wanted. And that version is fragile. It can't lead. It can't protect. It can't stand. Look, our relationships aren't games to be won. They are crucibles for transformation. And the moment you start performing, you remove yourself from that fire. You trade growth for approval. And that trade will kill you slowly. Because what you want isn't really her validation. What you want is to feel that you're enough. But that doesn't come from her. It never has. It comes from confronting your own inadequacy. Voluntarily. Repeatedly, with your eyes open and your spine straight. You don't become attractive by bending toward her expectations. You become attractive by becoming a man who doesn't bend unless it's by principle. And that requires discipline. It requires pain. It requires the rejection of comfort. That's not a message most men want to hear, but it's the only one that sets you free. Because let's talk about the cost of avoiding this. Weak men, men who never discover their core, what happens to them in relationships? They become yes men, pleasers, emotional hostages. They say yes when they mean no. They tolerate disrespect. They don't set boundaries. They lose their edge. And eventually they lose her respect. Because she cannot relax in the presence of a man who does not stand. And it's not because women are cruel or ungrateful. It's because women are biologically wired to test for integrity. Not consciously, but instinctively. They push, they question, they observe. Because they need to know. Can this man be trusted with chaos? Can he hold steady under pressure? And if you're faking who you are just to get a date, the answer is no, and she knows it, even if she can't explain it. So stop performing. Stop molding yourself into what you think will be accepted, and start becoming someone who doesn't need to be accepted to know he's valuable. Because that man, he's dangerous in the best way. He's calm, he's clear, he speaks from principle, not from fear. And when he enters a room, women don't just notice him, they feel safe near him because he's anchored, rooted, whole. And here's the final truth. If you have to pretend to be someone else to get her, then even if you win, you lose. Because she'll be with the mask, not the man. So tear off the mask. Speak with your real voice. Live from your deepest values. And if she walks away, let her. Better to be alone with your soul intact than adored for a lie that will one day collapse. Most men aren't looking for a relationship. They're looking for a way to escape themselves. And that's why they fail over and over again. Because you cannot use a woman to silence the voice in your head that keeps telling you you're not enough. You can't bury your insecurity in her affection and expect to come out whole. That isn't love. That's dependency. That's a broken soul dressing itself in romance and calling it salvation. You think if you just find the right woman, everything will finally feel right inside you. But here's the brutal truth. If you haven't dealt with your inner chaos, you'll drag it into every relationship you enter. And worse, you'll expect her to fix it. You'll expect her to heal wounds she didn't cause. And that's not love either. That's emotional parasitism. That's exploitation wearing the mask of connection. So many men chase women because they think the relationship will finally give them a sense of identity. But relationships aren't where you find yourself. They're where you reveal yourself. And if there's nothing of substance under the surface, no purpose, no vision, no discipline, then what are you revealing? A hollow man begging to be filled. And women can sense that, not always with words, but they feel it. That neediness, that unconscious pressure to be your purpose, your therapist, your reward. And it's repulsive, not because she's cruel, but because she knows she can't trust a man who has no center. If your self-worth is dependent on whether or not she texts you back, you are not ready for intimacy. You are still a boy looking for a mother. Let's stop pretending this is just about dating. This is about responsibility, psychological maturity, the willingness to confront the darkest parts of yourself instead of outsourcing your healing to someone else. That's the work. That's the foundation. And it's terrifying because it means you have to sit in the silence. You have to look in the mirror and ask, what am I hiding from? What pain have I buried so deep that I now seek women just to forget it's there? And I get it. Because it hurts. It hurts to face your failure, your inadequacy, your passivity. It's easier to distract yourself with validation than to rebuild your soul from the ground up. But that's exactly why most relationships are so shallow. Because they're not built on truth, they're built on avoidance. Two people trying to forget who they really are by losing themselves in each other. But there's another path, one that demands everything from you. It's the path of integration. It's the path where you stop running, stop seducing, stop pretending, and instead you build. You build character, you build stability. You build a life so meaningful that whether she stays or goes, your foundation remains unshaken because you are no longer looking to her to complete you. You are offering her a place in a life that is already whole. That's the man a woman can trust. That's the man she can lean on without fear because he doesn't collapse under the weight of her expectations. He meets them or he walks away with dignity. He's not addicted to her presence, but he values it. And that distinction changes everything. So if you're wondering why your relationships keep falling apart, stop asking what's wrong with women. Start asking what parts of you are still unfinished, still unloved, still hiding behind the mask of nice guy or alpha male or whatever persona you think will get you what you want. Because here's the final truth. Until you confront your own brokenness, love will always feel like survival. And she will always feel like an escape. And if that's the role she plays in your life, she won't stay. You don't attract a woman by needing her. You attract her by becoming the man who doesn't have to. What if I told you that most people don't fall in love, they fall into projection? They don't see the other person. Not really. They see an idea, a fantasy, a carefully constructed illusion shaped by their unmet needs and childhood wounds. And the moment that illusion begins to crack, when reality starts to seep through, they panic, they lash out, they feel betrayed. But the betrayal isn't real. It's not that the other person changed, it's that your fantasy die. And that's the tragedy of modern relationships. We don't pursue truth. We pursue comfort. And the truth is uncomfortable. It reveals where you're weak, where you're selfish, where you're not ready. But instead of facing that, we choose the path of least resistance. We idealize, we idolize, we seduce. And then, when the mask slips, we blame the other person for not being what we imagined. Do you know what that does to love? It destroys it, slowly, quietly, from the inside out. Because love can only grow in truth. And if you've never shown her who you really are, your real thoughts, your real fears, your real ambition, then what you're calling love is just a fragile truce between two people pretending not to be broken. Let me be blunt. If you can't tell her the truth, you don't love her. You fear her. You fear losing her. You fear her rejection more than you value your own integrity. And that fear will rot your relationship. Because it turns every word into a calculation. Every conversation becomes a performance. Every conflict becomes a threat to your identity. And sooner or later it collapses under the weight of its own dishonesty. Now contrast that with what happens when two people tell the truth. When a man stands up and says, "This is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I'm working on, and I won't hide it just to keep the peace," that man is dangerous. Not in a violent sense, but in the sense that he's not manipulable, he's not bendable, he's not for sale. And ironically, that's what makes him most attractive. Because you can trust him. Women don't want perfect men. That's a myth. What they want is a man who is real, a man who is brave enough to speak truth even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Because truth is the foundation of trust, and without trust, there is no love. Only negotiation, only survival. Think about the pain of living with someone who doesn't really know you, who loves the version of you that you crafted to keep them happy. That's not intimacy. That's slow magmission suffocation. And it's everywhere. It's in marriages that feel like business contracts. It's in dating dynamics that revolve around manipulation and silence. It's in the constant pressure to keep your partner from seeing who you really are because you're terrified they'll leave. But here's the paradox. The moment you stop hiding, the moment you start telling the truth, you stop being afraid of losing them. Because you finally realize that love that demands your silence is not love worth having. And the love that can hold your truth, that can survive your honesty, that can even grow through your flaws, that love is worth everything. So what do you want? Approval or truth? Comfort or transformation? Because you can't have both. One will kill the other. And if you keep choosing safety over honesty, you will never experience the kind of love that actually changes you. The kind that makes you more than you were, not less. And here's the line that should echo in your mind. If your relationship requires you to lie, then it is not love. It is a prison you've agreed to decorate. Tear down the walls. Speak the truth. Let the chips fall where they may. That's the only way to love and the only way to live. Why is it that the very thing people crave, deep, lasting connection, is the thing they sabotage most? It's because real intimacy is terrifying, not just uncomfortable, terrifying. Because to be truly seen means you have to stop hiding. And most people are addicted to their mask. They've worn it for so long, they've forgotten there's a face underneath. So they enter relationships not to connect, but to control. They want safety, but not vulnerability. They want validation, but not accountability. And that contradiction poisons everything. You want to attract a woman who actually respects you? Then understand this. Respect is earned through responsibility, not charm, not bravado, not some clever little trick you learned from a dating guru on the internet. A woman can spot that performance in seconds. And she may play along for a while, but inside she knows this isn't a man I can trust because he's not anchored to anything real. And that's the word, isn't it? Anchor. You want to be a man she trusts? Then be a man who is anchored in truth, in purpose, in character. Because when the storms of life come, and they will come, she needs to know you won't collapse, that you won't trade integrity for comfort, that you won't disappear the moment things get hard. Too many men today are chasing women instead of building themselves, and they wonder why they keep ending up with relationships that feel shallow, unstable, meaningless. It's because you cannot build something solid with someone else if your own life is built on sand. You want to lead a woman? Lead yourself first. Master your impulses. Speak the truth, even when it costs you. Take responsibility for your past, your pain, your potential. Because if you don't own it, someone else will. And then you're no longer a man. You're a puppet, a shell, a passive participant in your own story. Let me ask you, how many conversations have you avoided because you feared they would end the relationship? How many moments of silence were filled with lies just to keep the peace? How many times have you betrayed yourself just to feel loved for 5 more minutes? And what has that bought you? Peace or resentment? Intimacy or distance? Here's what people don't understand. Your silence doesn't protect the relationship. It kills it, slowly, like carbon monoxide. You don't notice it at first, but it's leaking into everything. Your attraction, your communication, your trust. And one day you wake up next to someone you don't even know. Someone who doesn't know you. And you wonder how it happened. It happened because you weren't real. You weren't honest. You played a role instead of living a life. And she didn't fall in love with you. She fell in love with the script. That's why she left, or that's why she stayed, but emotionally checked out. Because there's no passion in performance. There's no loyalty to a facade. But there's hope. There's always hope. Because no matter how lost you feel, you can choose to become someone worthy of love, not entitled to it, worthy of it. And that worthiness comes from one thing: your willingness to confront the truth and carry the weight of your life. That's where respect is born. That's where attraction deepens. That's where real love begins. Want to attract any woman, even the one who's not interested? Then stop asking what she wants. Ask what you would want from you if you were in her position. Would you follow you? Would you trust you? Would you bet your future on a man like you? Because here's the final brutal truth. If you wouldn't commit to the man you are, why should she? Become the man she can believe in. Not because you told her to, but because you showed her it was possible.